Hi, everyone. This is completely last minute. I didn't plan this at all. Seems to be the story of my life these days. But I'm going to make sure that we are live on YouTube before I continue, because there is some stuff that I really want to talk about. Okay. Yep. We're live. And it's going back over the autopsy reports. I know we have covered this so many times, and I don't know, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not expressing how important these are. So many people will look at what, the evidence in the police reports and say, well, it looks okay to me. It looks like everything's right. I've just been having, and it's been a good conversation. This person has been very kind, very nice, and at first they're like, hey, not sure about this. They looked at some of the stuff and read some of the reports. I'm assuming because they said they did. I have no reason to believe, to think that they didn't. And then they came back and they're like, well, to me, it all makes sense. And, he's guilty. And I'm like, do you understand what you read? Do you understand the autopsy reports? There's one word that changes the entire dynamic. Good morning, Russell. Well, good afternoon. Oh, yeah, it is morning here still, too. Hope you're doing well. And I want to show you again, before we continue to talk about this, I'm going to, share my screen, and we are going to go over the autopsy reports. And as you can see here, this is Kamel's report right up here at the top. And then it goes through some of the stuff. But this is the part here. Let me make this a little big. This is the part I want you to pay attention to. They took sections of the liver, the lung, the heart, and the kidney, and then they labeled those 1, 2, 3, 4. And look at how they describe that. It just says autolysis, 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 autolysis. And what that word means, it's just the beginning of the decomposition process. So in other words, microscopically, looking in a microscope, her cells are telling them they've only just begun the breakdown process of decomposition. This is little Ranya's. I'll make it just a little bit bigger because I don't want here. One. Okay, you see, it's hers. And this says sections of the heart, liver, and kidney show autolysis and post-mortem bacterial growth. Again, same thing. The only thing different between this is now there's bacteria growing, which takes just a scant little bit longer to happen than Kamel's. So again, but it just says autolysis. Let's go to David's report. Right here, sections of liver and kidney show marked. Oh my gosh. Oh, that here. Let's highlight this. This word right here makes all the difference in the world. Show marked autolysis and no discernible pathological abnormalities. So in other words, there were no deformities or genetic mutations or anything, but it is marked autolysis. That means this decomposition is further down the line. With Camel's, where it just shows autolysis, that's at the very beginning stages where just a few percent, I forget what the total percentages are, but let's just say maybe up to 25% of the cell nuclei have been decomposed and they're now liquefied. And that's not a solid number. I'm giving you an example. Same thing with Ranya's autolysis. Maybe up to 25% of the cells they're looking at underneath are completely decomposed and now liquefied. With David's, the marked, means up to 75% of his cells are liquefied or decomposed. They're getting ready to go to the next stage, from the beginning to the moderate stages of decomposition. If more of his cells are decomposed and now liquefied than Camel's and Ranya's, and you see this in their reports, you are seeing it with your own two eyes. If more of his cells are decomposed, what does logic tell you? What does science tell you? What does medical examination tell you? He has been dead longer. There's no way around that. When they put that word into the reports, oh, wait, let me go back to sharing the screen one more time. And we will look at who signed these, because I think it's super important. It's not different doctors. We'll go to the beginning. Who signed David's? Jessica and Dr. Maury. Who signed Camel's? Dr. Maury and Dr. Jackson. So we have Maury. Over here, Maury. Who signed little tiny Ranya's? Dr. Lilinski, Dr. Maury, Dr. Jackson. So Dr. Lilinski was on Ranya's and David's. Dr. Maury was on David's and Ranya's. Camel's was signed by Maury and Jackson. Jackson was on Ranya's and Camel's. Maury is on David's, Camel's, and Ranya's. So these doctors who are writing the difference in using the words autolysis versus marked autolysis, they know exactly what they're writing, and they know exactly what they're doing. And that word marked means David's body was decomposing longer. If it's decomposing longer, he is dead longer. It's been a long time. What is your final theory? Hi, Andrea. We're going to get there in just a second. And then she also says, David, Ronnie, and Kamel in that order according to the results. That's what I'm seeing, because Kamel is the only one that doesn't have any mold growth, and she's only in autolysis. That would be my guess. David, Rania, Kamel. And then Russell says, why do you use the term theory when she has stated nothing more than facts? I guess I'm not sure where that came from. Help. Okay. Oh, is that between the two of you? Relax. I'm trying to figure out her. Oh, she wants to know what, and it is a theory. If you're, for me, I can only say theoretically, I believe due to the medical facts and the scientific evidence. And again, I see your argument, Russell. If it's scientific evidence and medical proof, it's no longer theoretical, it's factual. However, because I'm not a quote unquote expert, I can only give a theoretical a possibility. And I don't understand why everyone is so defensive. Yeah, on the same page. Yeah, so, okay. I'm seeing if there's been any new info. And thank you. Thank you, Andrea. And I think the two of you are, Russell, I think you're misunderstanding where Andrea's coming from. She doesn't mean anything rude or condescending. She's just trying to get everything solidified in her thought process. But yes, I truly believe at this stage of the game, according to the autopsy results, it was David died first, Rania second, Kamel third. And according to the amount of damage done to the bodies, Kamel suffered way more injury than the other two. Yeah, I agree. I think you two were just misunderstanding each other. You're both on the same page. She says, I understand as I know there is much back and forth in the early days. Yeah. And then Russell says, got it. Okay, cool. And so with those people who are just looking at the police reports, I think why they are agreeing with them is because you look at the report and it's filled out, right? It is a properly completed police report. So therefore it must be true. But you can't just go by the fact that they wrote down a date, what they said happened, and then here's my conclusion, and then 100%. Okay, see, it's right. You have the bodies, and a lot of people have been in the past, I'm saying in the past, and now someone currently actually brought up the same point, who believed that paleo moved the bodies after they were deceased. Paleo was a tiny dog. I did find somewhere, and I'll have to find it. I have stuff scattered between so many devices that did I show that? Yeah. Hi, Bazing. Good to see you. That paleo moved, dead bodies have. I know most people have never, but lifting dead weight is not an easy thing to do. I remember as part of our EMT class and our training and our testing, and then with continuing education we had to deadlift or lift dead weight. They use dummies that are weighted down of a 150-pound person. Now, at the time, I was like 95 pounds, so I'm not that anymore. But trust me, it's not easy. So if me at 95 pounds, I did it, but I struggled to deadlift and carry that 150-pound weight so many yards before you could pass the test. I can't imagine a little tiny dog that weighed 15 pounds when it was found is going to deadlift and carry and drag around two adults, maybe the baby, but I kind of want to keep her out of this. I don't like talking about the baby. And I know she was almost 5, but to me, that's still a baby. I don't, I just want to leave her out of this. But then take that body. It's Kamel. Now you have to remember, Kamel was face down on top of a blue blanket that was relatively smooth under her body, her left arm, like in this position. And you can tell by the autopsy photos of the clothes that the arm was placed like up in here. The hand is missing at this point. There's no hand. It's underneath her. She's now on her stomach, face down, with a blanket over her head. And then that same blue blanket that's under her has been now placed neatly, quote unquote neatly. I mean, sure, it's not perfectly straight, but it is now on top of David's legs. How does the dog do all this? I'm like, think, people, think. I'm dragging as a dog. I can drag and place these bodies in these positions and then place blankets over and under and on top of. It tosses out the dog theory completely. Now you have that when you think logically about this, and then you put that with the autopsy reports. None of it makes any sense. And Andrea says, the dog could have moved the weight of an arm or leg at most. Exactly. Of an adult person. Exactly. And then I've heard the argument a lot. And again, this is kind of what brought it up, because the person I was speaking with today said, well, it makes sense to them that as the tugging, the hand kind of came off. And so to them, that made sense. Your hands and your arms and your legs are attached by ligaments and tendons. Those things are solidly attached just by tugging. You mean to tell me you're going to go around and just start pulling on people and things are just going to start popping off? It's not how it works. Not in early stages of decomposition. Maybe when it gets to the point of the later stages of the bloat and the beginning of the putrefaction stage, or maybe even at putrefaction, that may make sense, because then a lot of the body has been broken down. But we're talking, they are in early to moderate, where David's, his state, what he's in, marked autolysis. So he's further down the line in decomposition, heading toward moderate. So at this stage, I'm sorry, a dog is not going to be able to pull that hand off. It's not going to happen. Just by tugging naturally. Okay. Yes, exactly. Do you think police tampered with the scene or mishandled it? Or do you think it was staged by a perp? This is from Andrea. I believe both. And here, let me tell you why. I think the police tampered with it, but maybe not purposefully on their part. Because when you look at the beginning photos and then you're reading their descriptions, it doesn't match up. There are 2 or 3 of the officers who first arrived on scene who described Kamel as she was, and Rania between her legs. And there's even a sketch of Rania being between her mom's legs. Her legs are spread. They describe all that. And then the other officers who come in, who are looking at, and you're reading their reports, describe Rania as on top of her mom's legs, between her mom and dad. That's tampering with the scene. One of those officers took that little girl and moved her, which you're never supposed to do. And we know that she's moved, not only by the reports that follow after the initial officers, but by the one and only photograph we have. So yes, they definitely tampered. And I do believe that it was staged by the perpetrators. And I personally, could be wrong, believe that there were at least 2 people there who did this crime. Because again, its bodies are heavy. And to move those 2, it's just the way everything was. David's blood is missing from the scene. Rania's blood is missing from the scene. The only person whose blood is there is Kamel's. So you had to move the bodies from somewhere. They didn't die in that room. David and Rania did not die in that room. And that's proven by their evidence and by the scene itself. The photographs absolutely prove they did not die there. So again, this is the police not doing their job. So if you're reading the evidence and you're saying you believe this to be true, explain to me, and I'm speaking to the person I was talking with earlier. And again, we had a really good conversation. And if I'm coming across rude, I don't mean to be rude, but they were just asking and stating what they felt. But if you truly believe that, explain the missing blood, explain the missing high velocity. You have 4 gunshot wounds to 3 heads and 0 high velocity gunshot spatter. 0 pooling of blood anywhere in that house. Does not happen. Does not. So then, if we have police reports that are missing, lacking, or they lack the ability to say, we have gunshot wounds to heads, there's no high velocity here, no pooling, oh my goodness, they were probably killed somewhere else. Instead, they're like, oh, holy cow, this isn't good. Let's write it as murder-suicide, guys, because this is going to take too much work, too many resources of our office, and we need to close this out, pat ourselves on the back, and get our awards. That's not good police work. So mind-boggling all these years later, still horrifying. Absolutely, I agree. Okay, and Russell says, remember the 3 Ds: distract, deflect, divide. That could be what they may have been counting on to sideline the investigation. Yes, I absolutely see that in this case, completely. Oh, you're welcome, Andrea. And then it says, for sure, Traveler, I went through the officers' reports and they were all over the place. They really are. When you take them out, and I've taken them and I've compared each officer with what the one said before prior. I took them and read them according to the timelines of when they put the time when they're writing these reports. And it starts off here, which matches the one photo we have. Well, there's another photo, but you have 2 officers in complete agreement, and they're there at the beginning. And by the time you get done, things are written differently. The bodies are moved. Yeah, it's frustrating. Andrea says, you've been doing this long enough now, and I'm all ears. Yeah, I know, right? I've been at this. I did my first video in 2017, December of 2017. Not giving up. You aren't being rude, not ever. Oh, thank you, Bazing. That's so nice. I try not to be, but sometimes when I get passionate, so my frustration comes out, and I'm not frustrated at the person. I'm frustrated at how bad this thing was done and covered up and written. Ah. Andrea says they nailed the 3 Ds. Pure chaos and mayhem. Absolutely. Andrea also says, I cut the reports up and made a diagram, and it was so messy. I could imagine. Yeah. And then she says, I was there for the first video. Oh, yay. Thank you. See, I have a fan. Thank you, Andrew. You're the best. Oh, Iconic is here. Finally, I caught a live stream. Did I miss much? Well, not really. I went over and just showed the writing again of the autopsy reports. I've had someone who's been talking with me via email, and at first they were kind of thinking, well, maybe he was innocent. And then they read some of the reports they said, and now they're convinced, well, they believe he did it. They think the reports are fine. And so I went through and I showed on the autopsy reports the difference where Kamel's says autolysis, Rania says autolysis with mold beginning to grow. And then David's has marked autolysis, which means autolysis is the very beginning stages of decomposition. So roughly anywhere from 0 to 25% of the nucleus of the cells will be liquefied. And marked autolysis means roughly, I think, up to 75% of the cells that they're looking are now liquefied and decomposed, which tells us that if David's decomposition is further down the line and they're all in the same environment, They didn't find David down in the basement next to a boiler room. No, they were all in the same place. So if they're in the same place, that tells you David died first. And that's what I was trying to tell this person, how very important one word, marked, changes the entire dynamic of this case. I'm a super fan. Thank you. And Russell says, wait, I'm a fan too. Okay, now you guys can start competing. Oh, you two crack me up. And Andrew says, at the end of the day, the people who don't want to believe there was police involvement, the fact remains Kamel died last. And that is actually what the autopsy and the science tells us. She died last. And she was hurt a lot more. She was traumatized, brutalized way more than the other two. And not to say that the other two didn't suffer. They did. But Kamel seems and appears to be the focus of whatever rage took place here. Back to marked. Absolutely. And that's once... And this is kind of where I blame myself from the beginning, because when I first started reading all of these things, let's face it, it's overwhelming. You read all this stuff and there are things that just slip by you because you're just looking at this going, this is so wrong. It's just wrong. And it took me all these years. I think it's been, I forget how many months ago now, when I finally was rereading them. It was late at night, probably about 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. I couldn't sleep and I was bored. So I pulled up the autopsy reports again and I start reading it. And then all of a sudden that word just like, a bright light shining. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how did I miss this? Because that word changes it all. And as we see, each one of those doctors, they were all there together on each one of these bodies. And they know these are pathologists. These are MEs who do this, who specialize in the field of decomposition. So when they wrote that word marked, it was purposeful. They knew exactly what they were doing. And that tells us that they knew David died first, but yet at the beginning, they're going, murder, suicide. But they gave it away when they wrote that word marked, that was not what they believed at all. And they knew not to be true. Andrea states, the scientific evidence gives us that much, and that alone should have made the investigation get reopened. Yep. And, like I was telling this person too, it's like, I have other things that I have been told, and I know I've said this so many times. I did give this information to a few others, just in case, because we never know what life throws our direction. But there is other evidence that it's, again, absolute proof David was a victim of murder. And so I was told, do not release that. You better keep that to yourself. You wait until we get an attorney. You wait until this gets taken to court. And then it's presented in court, because every time I've presented something to these police officers and the state attorney general, the city attorney, all these people, when I found something, I'm like, wait, here you guys, this is wrong. Here's why David was a victim. They find a way to either excuse it or they completely shut down releasing any more information. So we can't get anything else unless we go to court and we sue to get it released. So they're covering their backsides, and it's disgusting that they are allowed to get away with this. Absolutely disgusting. Thanks, Iconic. Andrew says, I remember hearing the name Russell back when Dan was still hard at this. Yes, the same Russell. He's the one who has those degrees, and I always get him wrong. So he's always having to correct me. You would think I would know this. This is my brother. You would think I would know his degrees by now, but yeah. So he has a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. He was an adjunct professor teaching. Russell, what were you teaching? You'll have to you'll have to tell us, because I keep forgetting. Um, we don't have much, but the Johnny Cochran in me is screaming hole in the autopsy. If it don't of it, you must acquit. Oh, that's hilarious. I love it. Victim number 1, David Crowley. Victim number 2, baby girl. Victim 3, Kamel. That's my story. Hello, Sophia. And then she says, at the end of the day, they patsied a U.S. veteran off as a suicidal murderer of his family. Exactly. It was too convenient and too easy. And again, like I've told you before, I have heard from people who work in this field, especially directly from one person who had this experience. It was in a different state. They came upon a scene. They were a deputy coroner. They go to a scene. They go up to the officers to get the background before they start doing their investigation. And the officers are like, okay, this is a suicide. That's what we're writing it up as. And the person said, well, I don't know that yet. I haven't even seen the body. So they go and they check out the body and they come back and they're like, this is a murder. And they're like, no, it's a suicide. The police aren't the investigators, the death investigator. The deputy coroner working on behalf of the medical examiner is the death investigator. And they said, no, and I am not writing it that way. And they said, yes, that's what we're doing. They fought back and said, no, this is a murder. I am not writing it as a suicide. The police put in their notes, suicide. The deputy coroner says it's murder. So they have to go with the DA, and all this other stuff has to go with what the coroner's office is stating. It ended up going to court. Well, needless to say, this deputy coroner was then blackballed because they went against the police department. Happens all the time. So people who think police are just writing these reports and they're such good guys. Now there are good cops, but there are far more bad ones. And what I mean by bad is they will do anything. If they want to either take a shortcut, they're lazy, or they're covering for someone they know, they will break any and every law they can to get it done. I've seen it too many times, and it's disgusting. His name should be cleared. Absolutely. And that's why we keep fighting, you know. And I don't know, and it's interesting you bring up Dan. I have no idea what Dan is doing, but I will tell you, me personally, I am disheartened by the fact that he's walked away from the case. And I say he's walked away because what has he done in the last 3 or 4 years? Nothing. Zero. Other than reading from a book, he does nothing. He'll go to the group page and just say, okay, welcome the new members. That's it. That's not doing anything on the case, you know. But Greg, Sophia, and I were consistently still in there. There are a lot of other people that do shows on their side, like Ross and some other people. And Steven Sanziri still does things on the side and on the back burner. You may not hear from him, but he does stuff too. And so there still is a small core group of us. But as far as I'm concerned, Dan walked away a long time ago. So I don't even include him on anything anymore. He's out of the picture. So when and if we ever get this done, and if we can ever get a news agency to have the courage to talk about this case, I'm not going to include him. I will ask them not to include him because he's not, as far as I'm concerned, he's not part of this anymore. Yeah. Hi, Sophia. See, Sophia, everybody misses you. Let's see. Oh, okay. Russell states he did the intro course in forensic psychology and forensic anthropology. So he does have a background in this. He knows what he's doing. Andrea said, when that happened, it should get bounced right back up to another investigator. Yeah, it should. People don't care, though. In those fields, they will cover each other's backsides left and right. If police findings are opposing coroner findings, that is a big red flag. Yes, which is exactly why it went to court. The family, no, they didn't let it go. And thank goodness it was actually finally they went after and sought the person who killed this person. But, again, though, this person professionally suffered because they went against what the police were saying they wanted to have happen. So that's why, and I don't want to accuse Apple Valley Police Department of this type of mishandling, because I think that would not be a good thing to do. But I am saying that they are knowingly mishandling this case. They have the facts. They know the facts. The coroner, all three of those doctors knew. And again, they wrote in that report, marked, they knew. And yet they still blamed. So why? I'm trying to understand the why, and none of it makes sense to me. I've been out of the loop, but always thinking, well, yeah, I can see that because you're back. You're still here. Yeah. Shout out to Greg. I ran into him somewhere else, and we chopped it up. Yeah, Greg has been, I think, the most consistent. Other than, I think Greg and Sophia are neck and neck. Sophia does a ton of stuff you guys never see. She always stays to the back, but I'm telling you, that girl has done so much work on this case. A lot of stuff for the videos we've done, because I've been so busy. She will jump in, and that girl will spend hours, days, weeks to get everything together just so we can do a video. So I say huge shout out to Sophia too, both of them. Thanks for filling me in. You're welcome. I have a press pass since I left you all last. Oh, nice. What does a press pass do? Please help me. Did you look into the cadaveric spasm? Yes, and that actually very rarely happens. And that's when they spasm. And if you don't know what that is, if they're, somebody tends to shoot themselves once in a while, it's how things enter the brain. It automatically stops and say they freeze in a certain position. Now we know David's left hand is not in a cadaveric spasm. Here we go. Jumping real quick. Somebody had asked if it was tampered with. Another place where the scene was tampered with. In one video, you see David's hand like this, right? You clearly see it like in this position, laying on the floor. In the close-up, it's like this. Hands don't decompose and go in that way, especially. No. So it goes from this. Oops, from this to this. Someone in there, one of the police officers did that, because at the beginning, it's like that. Oh, again, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get the angle. In the beginning of everything of the investigation. But by the end, when they're taking photos, it's like that. Again, why would they do that if they're not trying to build and set their own narrative? But anyway, yes, the cadaveric spasm, it doesn't fit this scenario. Andrea states, and I did a fraud edit and caught a Virginia Supreme Court justice stealing, so he stepped down. I was busy. That's how I got my pass. Wow, you go, girl. You go. See, we need more people like her. Don't let them get away with things. Oh, okay. Sorry, I lost my place. Chief Justice Don Lemons of Virginia trolled by me, thanks to FOIA. Wow. Yes. There's my update. Missed you. Yay, girl. I'm so proud of you. Sophia is badass. I remember. Yes, that girl is. Let me tell you, she really, really is. No, I'm not too kind. I'm telling the truth. There's a difference between being kind and telling the truth. And I am telling the truth. Yes, she absolutely, she knows her shit. Yes, this girl does. Oftentimes I will forget something, and because there are so many pages to go through, I'll either send her an email, or when we're chatting, I'll ask her, and this girl can whip it out so fast. She just like, I know where that is. Give me a second. And then she's got it to me in less than 5 minutes. I assist several news organizations. Oh, cool. Yes. See, we need those new news organizations. I did write to Senator Paul. Was it Ron Paul? Which one was the presidential candidate, but his son is now a senator? I wrote to the son. And he was the one. I presented him with most of everything. And then I told him that there was more stuff I was holding back. And he was the one who wrote back, and he says, I'm sorry. He goes, unfortunately, it's not my jurisdiction, so I cannot help you. He goes, but I am suggesting and I am saying you need to hire an attorney. So that gave me hope that somebody else saw the truth in what we were doing. Yes. And I think you're talking about the hand. Yeah. Pages of the book on the floor were moved too. Yes, see, this is what I'm telling you. I love Sophia. And I caught this a long, long time ago. And it's when we were going over it, and I was looking at the photos. And as I'm going through them in my photo editing program, because most of you know I used to do photography, and it just caught my eye. I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. This isn't in the same place. So I started lining up the photos, and a piece of skull that was on one of the pages, it moved and it moved and it moved. Now, when the photographer's there taking photos, you don't move squat. So was it the photographer moving that skull piece, or was it the police officer? They don't mention moving anything. They say everything was left as is, and we have photographic proof things were moved. They weren't very good. I'm so glad you are still here in the same spot. It's refreshing. Thanks. Sophia Allen, David Crowley, Dewey Decimal System. She is. She really, really is. Oh. Okay. Rand Paul. Thank you. Yeah. Russell saying hello to Sophia. And are you in France, Monsieur? He's in the Philippines. Then they manipulated the shape of the skull. Yes. See, again, thank you, Sophia. That same skull piece. I love Sophia. That same skull piece, which is laying on the floor in one position in one photo. You look at the other photos, and some of the skin flap that was still attached was tucked under on one, moved in a different place on another. They are moving things all over that crime scene. All over that crime scene. Okay, now we're going to go back to the autopsies real quick, because how I want to stress, again, how important the word marked is. And in the medical field, that is the difference of night and day. So let's look at the difference in a couple of different situations. Say you're going into your tire person, right? And you tell them, it's like, okay, I have a tire. They're looking, and they're like, and you're like, okay, this tire I'm going to write. The police officer looks it down. You're on the side of the road, and the officer goes, okay, it's a punctured tire, flat tire, no big deal. So you take your little police report, you go to get your tire changed, you go in there, and they're looking at it, and they're like, this tire is shredded. It's not flat, it's shredded. But they're looking at the police report, and so they changed the tire. And instead of writing shredded, they'll either put flat, or maybe they will put shredded, but then still put flat in their final conclusion. Big difference. Say you have like a scrape on your arm, and the doctors look at it, and it's like, okay, it's a scrape. We're writing it down as a scrape. And then you go to the specialist, and the specialist goes, that's a malignant cancerous growth. And they put malignancy. Scrape, malignancy. Huge difference. This is what I'm saying. This is how important that word marked is on that report. It's the difference between a scrape and a malignancy. It's the difference between a nail in a tire and a shredded tire. That is why when you see that word, you know that they meant to state different. And it's a huge difference, not a little difference, huge difference. And that's why, it's hard for people who aren't in the medical field, I guess, to understand that when you write words, when you're writing reports, every word counts. Every word is important. Every word written and every word omitted. So if you're in, because how many of us have gone to a doctor and they'll tell you, oh my goodness, that's not good. That sounds really bad. But then you get home and read your report and just go, it's a sniffle. How often is that done? So make sure that, especially with your doctors in the medical field, you make sure that they're writing exactly what they're telling you, or you're writing down exactly what they're saying and who said it. Because when you go back, all of a sudden, that's not what I said. And it's exactly what they said. Happens every single day, every moment of the day. And then Sophie says, then they manipulate the shape. Oh, yeah. Okay, got that, which is so true. They did. Yeah. Russell says, I'm currently in the Philippines. However, I'm of French Canadian descent. And so that's why, I really wanted to jump on here. And I really hope the person who was emailing me, I really hope they watch this. I'm going to send them, the link and everything and let them know that I did cover this. Because it felt like, it felt like they were open, and this is just where they went. It didn't feel manipulative. It didn't feel like they were, some plant. They were just a person looking. And so they're like, okay, well, I'm going to stick with the official report because to them it made sense. And I've been sitting here for like a couple hours, and I finally said, forget, I can't, I've got to just go live and do this explanation. It's like going from you to that boy that's really going from you to that boy that's really smelly. Yeah. And so I don't know, how long have we been on here? Oh my goodness. See, it took me 47 minutes to say that word marked is very important, but it really, really was. And it is. And it tells us David died first, the mold growth. And I do believe William Rail. Oh, I left William out of this. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, William. I don't even know if you'll see this, but William Rail has done a lot of work on this case too. And he did a really interesting video about mold growth and how long it takes mold to grow. And in fact, he was the one that brought that to my attention. And it's very, very interesting. In fact, I'll go and see if his video is still up somewhere. I'm not sure if he has it on Rumble or even if his video is still up. If it's not still up, I'll ask him to put it up again, because even he proved by his research into mold growth that David and Rania died way before Kamel did. And so again, when we're looking at the scientific and the medical evidence, the way that they died, in fact, I don't know if I don't know what his conclusion was, but this was before we realized that the word marked was in the autopsy reports. Geez, took us 7 years. Sorry, guys. Or 6 years. I don't know, however long it took us. But again, David died first. Rania died second. Kamel died third. So if David is already deceased, explain to me those who think he's guilty. Explain to me how he killed his family, positioned their bodies, then placed his own body on the floor in the position it was in. He's gone. How did he do it? He didn't. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. Like I said, this was completely last minute and impromptu. But I really, really appreciate Andrea, Russell, Sophia, Bazing, and Iconic. I appreciate all of you guys so, so much. And thank you for being here. And I hope you guys have a great day. Anything, oh, wait, Iconic says something. I don't want to go without saying that. Iconic stated, if David shot himself with his left hand, it shows that he had no right hand and it was gone somehow. I'm sure he didn't let Paleo chew off his right hand. Exactly. Exactly. You know, David's left hand is the only one there. David's missing his right hand. Kamel is missing both hands. And again, remember, and it's proven by the autopsy photos of the clothes Kamel was wearing that her arm had been under her body during her entire decomp process because it's imprinted on her shirt. The sweater pattern is imprinted on her shirt. So now her left hand is under her body. Her right hand is over her head. Now, mind you, they didn't even know her head was missing because it was covered. There was a blanket covering her head. So when they walked in, they only saw a body lying on the floor with the legs spread with a child between it. They had no idea her condition. So all these miraculous things happened after David died. Okay, bye, Russell. Hope you have a great day. Have lots of fun in the Philippines. Again, these are just things we could talk. I could talk about them just for hours because people who are believing the narrative and what the police wrote in the reports, I am seriously mind boggled. I don't get it. I am telling you, there's a complete disconnect. I don't understand where and how you're reading that and then not seeing the inconsistencies here. You know, they can't explain a dog covering a head, dragging bodies everywhere that weigh probably 250 pounds, dead weight. I don't know how much weight it adds, but if David was, you know, they're looking at the weight they were then, you know, 100. So she was probably 150, 175. He was probably closer to 200 pounds. How a dog is lifting this dead weight, moving them, positioning them in these really intricate positions, covering and putting blankets under, and then positioning the baby on her left side between her mama's legs in such a perfect way. But yet, when you see how the police changed the body positions, people go, well, look, that looks like it was just drugged there. That's not how she was originally found. And again, that's in the reports. If you're reading the reports, you see child lying on left side between mother's legs. Then at the very end, child on top of and between both mom and dad, partially on her back. Not the same. Is Greg in the house? Hey, Greg's in the house. Hey, we were talking about you, Greg. It was all good, though. Kamel was the true target, in my humble opinion. Yes, that is, I agree. She has sustained so many more injuries. Her blood is what's all over the house. And when she died last, I agree. And look, everybody's saying hi, Greg. Sophia says, hi, Greg. Greg says, hi, Sophia. And good to see you. Good to see you too. It's like, yay. So Greg, long story short, I jumped on almost an hour ago just to talk about, because I've been talking to someone on email and they had questions, and then they said that they were following the original narrative and that's what they thought. And I was trying to explain to this person the importance of the autopsies. And so we've been discussing that one word, marked, changes everything, absolutely everything. Marked goes from 0 to 25% of liquefied nuclei to 75% liquefied nuclei, which when you have more liquefied cells, decomposed cells, the body's been dead longer. And we have Mary too. Hi, Mary. Oh my goodness, this is so good. Hi guys, this is great. And bonjour à toi. And Sophia. And so that's the whole thing. And for me, it's like, I know I used to say for a long time that if somebody could provide me proof David did it, I would have changed my mind and I would have said, okay, you're right. This one word changed everything for me, even after everything we found. But when I saw this, no way. No way. You cannot take someone who is 75% through the initial decomposition process and put them last and make them the guilty party to the ones who only have 25%. It doesn't work. Hide and seek too. Hi, hide and seek. Hi, everyone watching from Manchester, UK. Good to see ya. Hey, we have a good group now. Anyone else I missed? I know. There are lots of people here. Salut, Russell. Good to see you guys. This is great. Bonjour, Iconic. Poor Sophie. She's apologizing to you, Iconic. I neglected you. I apologize. Good to see you. And so, again, when we start thinking about all of these things, like Sophia was reminding me about the skull piece being moved and how they were actually manipulating the skin that was attached to the skull piece. That was moved. The hand was moved. The bodies were moved. Well, Rania, we know for sure, was moved. And so I clearly can't understand how anybody can go, oh, well, yeah, this is right. And I'm not condemning this person who was writing to me. I am in all honesty asking you, how can you believe it? Just how? Welcome, Hide and Seek. Hide and Seek says, I followed the case ever since it happened. I had my doubt about it all from the very beginning. See, somebody else who's there from the beginning of the case. Yeah. And when you're looking at it, and they state in their reports on all of them, it says early to moderate decomposition. And the timeline for early to moderate is from like death until roughly 7 to 10 days. And then from 10 days to a couple of weeks. And then it goes from there. Now, these bodies were found on January 17th. The police are saying, oh, okay, they must have died December 24th or 25th, whatever. The autopsy reports are telling you that they died somewhere around January 7th to 10th. They were already alive after the new year. And when you're looking at their house, they have the Christmas boxes out. Some of the decorations were taken down, but the tree was still up. And there were no presents, no wrapping paper, nothing to be found. But yet there's a brand new toy, a little teapot toy. So they clearly had their Christmas and they clearly had celebrated everything. And they were in the process of cleaning up, but that's never mentioned ever. Yes, we do, Sophia. See, again, what we were talking about earlier, this girl finds stuff all the time. She's amazing. Hide and seek. I first came across the trailer that David made. Then the news hit. Oh no, that would have been hard. And what I don't understand is how I've got to find it. I know I saved it. I took a screenshot and I saved it of one of the people who were part of that slopumentary. I love, Greg invented that word, and it's the perfect word for that Netflix fiasco. Or was it the A&E fiasco? Whatever it was. But he stated in this, and again, I have a copy of it. He stated that he did everything so people would draw a conclusion at the end. And when they drew the conclusion he was inferring, he felt he did his job. That's not doing a documentary. That's doing a manipulative hit piece. You are leading people with what you call evidence. You put stuff together in a certain way that led people down a path. That's not following the evidence. That's writing a narrative. And that's disgusting, because when you look at the evidence, it is clear and plain as day that this man was a victim, but yet they blame him because he's a soldier, an ex-soldier. They blame him because so many soldiers, unfortunately, do commit suicide. But how many of those suicides are taking out their families? You will find that percentage small. They will take themselves out generally, but most of them will leave their families alone. They love their families. They just can't deal with what they saw. David loved his family. In his journal, he gets to the point where he's like, he was so happy. He goes, I finally am connecting with my daughter. He fought for years to learn how to connect to his little girl. He finally found it, and they were getting ready to move. Kamel made really good career choices for herself. She left her job, didn't even tell David she had done it and was going to do it. He didn't know, I think, until after it was a done deal. And she's like, I'm done with this. I'm leaving. He's like, oh, what? And people who think he was living off of Kamel, when you're reading in his journal where he says, he goes, I'm so glad I have these side jobs making $75 an hour because, boy, that's what's paying the bills right now until I can get this off the ground. He wasn't a moocher. That man worked his butt off. He worked hard. And Iconic says, they were all in leisure wear. Yes, usually denotes after dinner. Yeah, after dinner or right after breakfast, right? Those are the two times where the entire family is usually in that type of clothes. So I don't know. I'm just tossing that out there. It could have been dinner. It could have been breakfast. And then Sophia says, please don't forget Captain. Oh, thank you, Sophia. Hit the like button. YouTube and their algorithms. Hide and Seek says, exactly. You hit the nail on the head there, Catherine. Okay, good night, Russell. I don't know how to say nuit. Bon nuit. I don't know how to speak French, but anyway, good night. That's right. It's getting late for you. Get some sleep. So, yeah, it's just, I don't see anything that points to David's guilt, but people will take things and twist them. Like at the beginning, when David first starts writing his journal and he starts journaling his feelings when he couldn't connect with Rania, and he was like quite frustrated with her little shenanigans, because guess what? 4 and 5-year-olds do a lot of shenanigans, especially children who have ADHD. Man, they are all over the place. And name me one person in this entire world that handles those situations perfectly every single time. You're not going to find one. And so David found his journal as his safe place to go, oh boy, she was being a little shit today. And I'm sorry, what parent has never been frustrated with their child? If you have a parent who says they've never been frustrated, I've never had a bad thought, I'm going to tell you, you've now found a liar. Because kids get to the point eventually where they test every piece of patience you have. It's what they do. That's why they're children. And it's our job as parents to guide them. Okay, we need to get past that point here, people. And David didn't know how for a long time. He couldn't figure out what it was that was making her tick. And the one time when he's writing in his journal, she wanted some nuts to snack on or some crackers or something, and there was some still left on the counter, and he yelled at her, like, what do you mean you want that? Finish what you have. How many of us have said that? And then he writes in his journal, why did I do that? Was it such a big deal in the whole scheme of things to make her cry over stupid nuts? The guy had insight. So it's not that he didn't love his daughter. He was journaling his frustration because he couldn't figure her out. But he finally got there. They finally connected, and he was so happy. Things were so good. Okay, yeah, I have a movie deal. We're moving to a new town. I finally have connected with my daughter. Things are fantastic with my wife. I think I'm going to just go snap and kill everybody. Does not make sense. Okay, you two and your French. I don't know how to say those. And Sophia says, we all wear leisure clothes as soon as we get home, even the kids. Oh, see, at her house, that's what they do. Um, Hide and Seek says, I just want to say a huge thank you to you guys for never giving up on the case and seeking justice for David and his family. Thank you, Hide and Seek. Like I said, there are especially Greg. Greg is, I think, the one who's been visually, and in the social media, he's been on top of it consistently. I know I have not been doing as much. Sophia's done a lot in the background, and trust me, if I was putting out a video for everything Sophia was doing, I would probably have a video every single week. But as you know, there's some stuff that's been going on in my family, and so we're trying to get that taken care of. It's gets more complicated as the day goes on, but that's okay. We're getting back to a regular routine now. Thanks, Catherine, for this. I hope to tune in next time. Oh, I hope so too, Iconic. We love having you. Greg says, anyone seen the Coffee House crime hit piece on David Crowley? Yeah, in fact, you'd asked me that. Yeah, I watch Greg too, and Dan. Yeah, I watch a lot of Greg. And like I told you, Dan has walked away. It's in my opinion, Dan has walked away. So I give no credence to anything he does. I won't even ask him anything anymore. He hasn't been part of the case for 4 years now. So and that's okay. If he wants to go do his personal life, and I'm not standing in judgment of him. I'm just saying, as far as the case goes, if and when I can finally get this to a public place, he's not part of it. He's just not going to be part of it. Dan Plemick says, this case is a travesty, a conspiracy, and it's rotten that the police force either willingly or unintentionally completely fumbled the investigation. Agreed, 100,000%. No, I haven't seen it yet. That's Mary's response to you, Greg. And I will. Now, that piece that Greg is talking about, Sophie and I are on the same level here. She goes, I saw it. It's an obscene hit piece. It's full of disinformation. The only thing, now, if you guys want to go watch it, I'm not going to tell you not to. I was so angry by the time I got done. I left a rather long comment to set the record straight on just a few things. But what that person does is they take the sloppy-mentary as well as the news things, and they run with it. And by the time they get done, they're calling David a psychopath, a murderer. He just slaughtered his family. They're destroying him even more. And the sickening thing is this person has millions of followers, and they get seen, and they didn't even do any research. And yet here we are struggling against the millions. We are the few, the 5, the 10, the 20 against the millions. And every time some person like this puts something out and it gets spread around, it's harder and harder and harder for us to fight back. I'm finding for me, because then I get more people going, oh yeah, but look what they said. I don't care what that person with that 1.3 million viewers or subscribers says. They're a liar. They didn't research, and they only ran with what the sloppy-mentary said. They have done more damage to us, because now they have their followers going, oh yeah, that's right, I agree, you did such a good job. And then how many people are they telling? So we're not fighting just against that one. We are fighting against the millions and millions that they have now influenced. And it makes me angry to no end. It makes me angry. You all make a great team aiming for the right goal. Thank you, Hide and Seek. Greg says, I may do a live response video on the Gray Stage channel, but it sounds so bad I may not even do it. I haven't seen it. It's bad. It's worse than the sloppy-mentary. Just imagine the sloppy-mentary, but now you have millions of people going, oh yeah, we agree. He's such a horrible guy. Iconic said, Catherine, Sophia, and Greg are the true core of this investigation. Mega props, you guys. Thank you. Thank you, Iconic. And I know Greg and Sophia really appreciate that. Mary says, oh, I don't want to fill my head with nonsense. I will pass on five, yeah, this information piece. It is. It truly, truly is. It was sickening. I had my stomach was in knots by the time it was done. And do you think they ever respond? Nobody even commented. I mean, last I checked, my comment was still there, but nobody even responded. They all just like ignored I was even there and were just, blowing smoke up this guy's butt and blowing him heart happy bubbles because he was such a good job. Sophia says, at least we don't do videos for clicks and views and money. We do videos to get the truth out, which is true. It's true. And that person made a ton of money off that video. Mary says, exactly, Sophia. I will not waste my time. Hide and Seek says, I've only watched the original and ignore all the others. My mind is made up and that will never change. I knew straight away that David would never do such a thing. And I agree. I know I've said this so many times, because people accuse all of us who think he's innocent of being, I don't know, blind or whatever. We don't see the truth, or we're David lovers or whatever. I don't even know who David Crowley is. I've only come to know him by doing this research. I had never heard of him, never heard of Gray State, had no clue about any of this. And I went because I honestly thought that this group that Greg was in and is in now, I honestly thought they just didn't understand what the autopsy state, which clearly people don't. And so I just figured, okay, I'll go do these videos and I'll read these autopsies and I'll help them see I'll explain the medical jargon. And when I read it, I was like, this guy didn't kill his family. And so then I read the police report next. I think I read the 94-page report next. And then I'm like comparing that with I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't right. And that's what led me down. I honestly walked in thinking I was going to convince them that David had to be guilty because here's why. And instead it was like, this man, from the moment I read those autopsy reports, I knew he was a victim. And so from that point forward, we've all been doing our best to get that truth out. And so I had never heard of him. I get nothing from seeing the truth except knowing the truth is based on the actual evidence. That's correct, Mary. Yeah. And I think we all feel the same way. Absolutely. Greg says, free leggings for anyone who can prove David guilty. Oh my gosh. We need to get those leggings. I love those leggings. I need to get a pair for winter up here. Oh, speaking of which, Greg, I've been wanting to get a mug because I keep forgetting. Are they still for sale? Do you still have merchandise for sale? I really want a mug. So if it is, can you send me the link so I can put it down below? Because I really want to go buy a mug. And maybe next winter some leggings. It's too hot to think of leggings right now, but that's hilarious. Yeah, no, see, that's so funny. Hide and Seek puts a laughing face at Greg. But yeah, so I'll just wait to hear from Greg because I don't. Oh, he says, I have no idea. I don't even know if I have the link. It was all really a joke. Well, joke or not, I liked the mug. Come on. And we want those leggings. Oh, we should find out if it's still live and active. But okay, if nobody has any other parting words, it's been a little over an hour. I think we'll wrap this up. Greg says, why I didn't show. Oh, he says, I'll look. I'm sure I do in an old video. I hope so. Because I don't know. I guess collect might be the right word. I love coffee mugs. I have so many. I just recently went through my kitchen and got rid of all of my old dishes. I'm one of those where I'll find like one or two plates. And if I like the style, I'll buy it. Well, I had a whole mismatch in my thing. I had 3 different sets with 3 completely different colors. And I go, okay, it's time that I actually go through this and buy an actual set of dishes. So I just recently did that. And I tried to get rid of my coffee mugs, and instead of going to Goodwill, they went back up in my cupboard. So, he says, I bet Greg got the link. Really? I mean, he's holding out on us. Give us the link, Greg. So save your money. I'll make you one. I don't know. I love it. Okay, if you make one, do you do pottery? Seriously, Greg, do you do pottery? How are you going to make one? Because people who do pottery, they make coffee mugs completely wrong. And I'm going to stick to that. The mug should be wider at the bottom and then narrow at the top, because it keeps the heat in better. And I'm trying to find one like that. And it's like they're really hard to find. Okay, Mary says, thank you. I'll make sure my notifications are on. I miss a lot because I don't get the notifications. Okay, this was, just so you know, this was completely impromptu. I just jumped on due to just kind of, is it remunerated? Right, there's a word for when you just keep processing over and over an email from a person that I've been talking with for the last couple of days. And when they said that they, after I said, okay, here's where you can find the reports, here's, where you can find all the stuff. And then they said, well, I read it, and I'm going to agree with the reports. I think he did it. And I'm just like, how? If you read the autopsy reports, how can you think that? And so that's kind of what led to this last minute jump on it and do the video thing. But okay, I think we really will wrap it up right now. It's been an hour and a little over an hour and 15 minutes. So, but thank you. Literally, thank you, everyone, from the bottom of my heart. You guys are the best. And I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. And we will definitely catch you next time. Hold on. See, leave it to Sophia. She will find it. There it is. Now we can go get our leggings and our mugs. Thank you, Sophia. Okay, everyone, you guys all have a fantastic day, and we will definitely catch you next time. Bye.